Well, hey, this is Rhonda Simmons, and I am so glad to be here today for another edition of Empowered Heart to Heart. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. Make sure if you're watching this on our YouTube channel that you like, comment, and share the video. Or if you're listening on our podcast, make sure you let somebody know that you're listening and share the episode because today's episode is going to be phenomenal. We're in the midst of a series of Dear Future Me. We're right here at the beginning of a new year, a new beginning. You know, I always think when it's this time of year, okay, what did I do last year that I can do differently this year? How can I improve? How can I make myself better? Well, now's the time to really stop and reflect on the things that you did well and the things that could be improved. And so we have a series going called Dear Future Me. You know, I don't like dwelling on the past because sometimes, depending on what it is, I feel kind of yucky about that. But I love thinking about my future because I get to determine what I want my future to look like. And so I have met some of the best people this side of heaven, and today is no exception. And I am so looking forward to today's interview because we're going to learn some great things about our guest and her journey from where she was to where she is right now. And so I am super duper excited. We're going to really learn some things and how to overcome, because one thing about it, there's nothing like being an overcomer. Really, it's a good feeling knowing that you won. Maybe I'm just competitive, but I just like knowing that I won. And sometimes the greatest battle I have is not with people, believe it or not. You know who is my greatest contender? Me, overcoming me. And so I am so glad to have our special guest today with us because she is just a powerhouse, and I'm looking forward to introducing her to everyone. Because she has an amazing story that she is going to share with us today. Our guest today was healed from an eating disorder. Yes, I definitely want to hear how she got out of that. And she was had this disorder after getting out of an unsafe marriage. So if you're in that place today where your marriage is unsafe, however you define unsafe, then you need to tune in and pay attention to our guest today because she has some great things to share about her journey. And so I'd like to introduce to all of us Miss Jenna Talleda. And I hope I
Yes,
said that correctly.
yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you so
Hello.
much for having me.
Thanks for being on our show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us, what was the breaking point for you when it came to um, deciding that you wanted to be free from this eating disorder?
Yeah. So, well, it was really interesting actually because I still kind of feel a little silly about it because I honestly didn't realize that I was having a problem until later. And it's so silly because looking back on it now, I can definitely see that there were problems. But when I was in the midst of it, it just it's so normalized in our society about um dieting and trying to lose weight and restricting our eating and all of this stuff. It's so normalized. And so I just thought, that I was just doing what was normal. And what ended up happening is that I ended up getting a job at a drug rehab center, and I noticed that as a lot of the people were coming off of their drugs or alcohol, that they started resorting to their either their diagnosed eating disorder behaviors or their disordered eating if they didn't have one. And some of them were like very restrictive. Some of them were numbing with food. Some of them were just re-eating because they didn't really eat a lot. But at the time, I actually didn't have a lot of experience with working with eating disorders. Um, so I went and I did some research and to figure out how I could best support them. So really, my clients were in mind when I was doing my research, and I found out that intuitive eating is a very successful approach. And so I picked up the book. It's written by these two amazing authors, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And I started reading this book. And again, keeping my clients in mind while I was trying to do this research. And it seemed like the authors wrote the book about me. And I was so confused because, like, at that point, I was a dietitian for about 10 years. And so I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a dietitian. I shouldn't have these issues. But actually, I did. And I was dealing with a lot of chronic dieting, feeling guilty and out of control with food. I was emotionally eating. At that time, like maybe about the year prior, I really was at the height of a really severe eating disorder. I pretty much it's called orthorexia, which is like healthy eating to the millionth degree. Everything had to match a certain nutrition profile. And I was also exercising to levels that weren't safe for my body. So in a way, there was also some bulimia mixed in, but it was like exercise bulimia. And so, and during that time, it was, like I said, it just felt like this is what I was supposed to be doing, because I thought, you know, I thought that that's how I needed to feel, that I needed to punish myself because at the time my husband decided to end our marriage, or actually think it was okay to cheat on me because he said that I was fat, and it really crushed my soul. And I thought things were okay, but they obviously were not okay. And he was using that as a way of projecting his own, issues onto me. But I felt that I needed to be smaller in order to have a healthy relationship, in order to be successful with my career. And it just led to all of this punishment. So as I'm reading this intuitive eating book, like everything just lined up. Everything all made sense of why we feel this way about our food and our bodies. And um and really that it's, learning how to cut out the noise and instead listening to what our bodies are saying. That that really was fascinating for me, because I've been told not to listen to my body. I've been told to that, this is how we're supposed to be. This is what our bodies are supposed to look like. And at the time, I still am, I was in a naturally bigger body. And but there was just so much pressure to always be smaller. So going back to the beginning of my recovery, when I started reading this intuitive eating book, I felt like I was crying the ugly tears as I was reading this book. And and at the same time, I was also screaming at it because it was a completely different way of thinking about it. But it finally all made sense. Everything finally fell into place when why things happen the way they do, with why weight tends to come back, why we use food emotionally, and that food police voice. I have a really mean food police voice at the time. Now my food police voice is a lot more mellow, but yeah. But then after that, I just knew that this is where I was supposed to be. This is this was the place where I was not only supposed to heal myself, but after working with clients for 10 years before that, I knew that I needed to bring this message to other people. So so I went and I got certified in it. Shortly after, I worked with my therapist. I worked with uh, dietitians who are in this field and who could help me work through that messaging that I had. That was that was back in 2017. That was like 6 years ago. So I'm a completely different person from there. I definitely have a lot better relationship with food and body than I did before.
That
So yeah,
was
so and I just, my goal now is to help people feel good in their bodies, no matter what their body size is, and help them feel good about their bodies and inside their bodies. Um,
well, that's
and
wonderful.
thank
So
you.
I'm glad that you were able to get that breakthrough and have that huge epiphany.
Yes.
What type of support system did you have on this journey?
Um, well, it was with my therapist. I had this amazing therapist. She really just helped me deal with so much stuff and helped me learn my how to start bringing self-compassion, how to start tackling my perfectionism and things like that. And then, like I said, I had these really amazing intuitive eating dietitians that I worked with. It was mostly professionals that helped me through this journey. At the time, I was newly divorced, and I also came from a family that was very toxic, so I had to separate myself from them. So it was really kind of my own personal journey that I didn't really have a lot of outside support from there. But the professionals that I worked with, they really helped me get into a much better place.
Yes.
Um,
Well, I am certainly glad that you weren't alone and
thank
that you
you.
had the support that you needed. That is so critical because sometimes when we're facing life crises, we definitely feel alone, and knowing that you weren't is very powerful.
Thank
Jenna, I
you.
also love the fact that you are a professional. You're in the field that you're coaching in. You didn't just wake up one day, in another industry and said, you know what, I want to be a dietitian coach. You're in the field.
Hmm.
That speaks volumes. And so um, the fact that you weren't alone, tell us, what are you doing now to help other people?
Well, I have a group right now. It's called Permission to Exist, and it's a space specifically for people, for women in bigger bodies who want to stop fighting with the scale, who want to start, being at least neutral with their bodies. They might not necessarily be in a place where they want to be best friends, but they want to be neutral at least. And learning how to listen to what their bodies are saying, um, and, and work on that mean inner critic, that food police voice that we have. That's what we do in the Permission to Exist group. It's a monthly membership, and it's a really special place. Um, we meet every Tuesday evening, and I've really just I've had this group going for maybe 2, 3 months now. And in that space, the ladies in there, they've made so much awesome progress so far. It's still a journey. I don't expect anything to be like a light switch and it, just automatically changes. But with where they've been and where they are now, it's magical. And I just want to be able to bring that to other people so they can start feeling safe in their bodies. It's not easy in this very fat phobic world that we live in, but but at least we can have this space weekly to explore that and to feel safe in that space and learn how to bring it to our outside world.
Well, that is wonderful, Jenna. So my
Thank you.
question is, um, our podcast is global. Is your permission to exist group online, or is it face to face?
Oh, it is virtual. Yes. Sorry about that. Yes, it is virtual. We meet online. And yeah, anybody's welcome to come and join. We, I know time zones make a difference there, but we meet at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm also looking to open up some other groups too, if um, if we need to, that are more convenient for others. So yeah, so it's a really fantastic thing. I'm so excited about it.
Well, that is wonderful. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, the link to Jenna's group membership site is on the screen. I'll also put it in the description for the podcast so that you can connect with Jenna. Like I said, I am so excited that you are a professional. You are trained in what you're trying to help others to become. One thing you said as we wrap up, Jenna, is
Yeah.
that you don't expect a change overnight, that it is a
Yes,
process. I love that because it is, change is hard
it
sometimes. And
is.
um, I don't know how your program runs, but it sounds like you go from mindset to action. Would that be a good summary of your program?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And we talk about, we unravel the messaging. Like um I've gotten decades and decades of messaging saying about what my eating is supposed to look like, what my body's supposed to look like. And I continue to get that messaging on a daily basis. So, yeah, it does take some time to unravel that messaging and to think in a different type of way. And so, yeah, it's definitely not a light switch, and everybody's journey is different. It's not the same path. It kind of it's not a straight line. It kind of looks like a really crazy roller coaster that goes all over the place. So, so to understand that and to have that support, like trying to work through that is really important because I could not imagine having to do this by myself. This really wouldn't have been an easy journey. I wouldn't be where I am today without that support. So,
Well, I'm so glad that lots of women around the world have you now to
well,
help
thank you.
to guide them on their path. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, your story of healing and recovery. I think one thing that we need to clearly articulate all the time to ladies is that healing is possible. You know,
Yes.
staying stuck is not an option, but healing is definitely achievable, and you've proven that. And so, thank you
Yeah.
so much for being with us on the show. And my last question that I just think is so profound, because our series is Dear Future Me. Um, and so, my question is, if you were to write a letter to your future self today, what would you
Mhm.
tell your future self and why?
Be to say my future self. Okay. So my future self. That's a really fascinating question. That's very hard to answer because, gosh, man, I am such a mean person when it comes to where I am today. So I would want my future self to tell me what to do in this current state. But I would say that to my future self, I would say congratulations to where you're at. You worked really hard to get to this place. And it hasn't been an easy journey, but you got here. And And I would just say continue going and don't let fear stand in your way. It's fear. Fear's normal and it's understandable, but it doesn't mean that you can't do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's some good advice for yourself. I hope you write that down and maybe put today's date and look at it, in the future to see how far you've come, and because you've already come far. And I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to hearing about the great things you do in the future. Thanks
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Yes, yes. Thanks so much for being with us today, Jenna. And if you'll just hang out for a minute, I'll be right back with you, okay?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sure hope that you gain some encouragement, some empowerment, some strength on your journey. If you're struggling with eating disorders, there's hope for you. Jenna proved that no matter where you are, what you're going through, Jenna proved to us that there is hope. Aren't you excited about how she was able, through the midst of disappointment and hurt and grief, she was able to pull herself up out of an unsafe marriage? And did you notice she also said that she had to disconnect from toxic family members? That's a whole nother episode. But sometimes you just have to do that, because I don't know anything, any substance, any attribute that is termed toxic to have any good redeeming qualities. Either it's toxic or it's not. And so Jenna let us know that we can do it. And so if you want to join her on the journey, uh, and permission to exist, I'll put up her website again. There it is. Join her membership so that you can be a part of a community, because that's so important. Don't go this alone. You don't have to. There is a group that's willing to help you and willing to be with you on this journey. So until the next time, be blessed, be strengthened, be encouraged, but most of all, be empowered. See you on the next episode of Empowered Heart to Heart.